In a dark valley between wooded hills stood an old abandoned sanatorium, about which dark legends circulated. The locals avoided it and said that within its walls still dwelt the souls of patients who had once suffered and died there. Anyone who tried to approach was said to hear screams and whispers that did not come from human mouths. On a cold autumn night, a group of 5 friends decided to investigate the rumors about the sanatorium for themselves. They were young adventurers who wanted to prove to themselves that they were not afraid. With torches in hand, they entered the large building, and after only a few steps, the heavy door slammed shut on them. The silence was more eerie than any sound. Every step on the rotted wooden floors echoed through the corridors, giving the impression that they were not alone. Faded photographs of former patients adorned the walls. Their blank eyes seemed to follow the intruders. One of the friends, James, looked at one of the portraits and froze. The eyes of the figure in the photograph moved. "Did you see that?" he whispered, but the others just exchanged nervous glances. They continued on until they reached the main hall. In the middle of the room was a rusted hospital bed. Beside it was the bound skin of an old mannequin. Or was it something else? Before they could say anything, there was a wail. It came from the upper floor. No one dared speak up, but everyone knew what it meant. They had to go up there. As they climbed the rickety stairs, they saw a long corridor with doors on either side. At the end of the corridor, a figure shimmered, skinny, tall, with empty eye sockets. It stood there for only a few seconds before it disappeared into the darkness. It wasn't a shadow," blurted Aliska, the bravest of them all, but there was unease in her voice. The others nodded and slowly continued on. One of the friends, Adam, cautiously opened one of the doors. The room was empty except for one bed and an old gramophone. As he approached it, the gramophone spun of its own accord. A woman's whisper came from the speaker, "You're too close." At that moment, footsteps sounded, fast, heavy, coming towards them from the hallway. They panicked and scurried back to the exit, but the door they had come through was closed again. Someone or something was keeping them inside. "Something's wrong here," James exclaimed, and began to slam the handle. Meanwhile, whispers echoed around them, voices that belonged to no living being. Plaster began to peel from the ceiling, and fingers appeared in its cracks, as if the hands of something buried there were trying to break through. Aliska saw movement at one of the windows. Outside, in the fog, stood several figures. They did not move, just waited there silently. "We are not alone here," she whispered. Suddenly there was a deafening scream, and Adam disappeared. The remaining friends turned in horror, but all that was left were a few footprints leading to the darkest part of the building. They tried to look for him, but the sanitarium began to shake. The walls were cracking, the lights were going out, and their bodies were getting heavier, as if something was pulling them down. In desperation, they ran to the window. They had no choice. The glass was solid, but at the last moment it broke and they fell out into the wet grass. When they turned back, the sanatorium was gone. In its place was only a black pit. from which whispers were still coming. They never found Adam again. The police said they never went to any sanatorium, that no such building existed, but they knew the truth. And Adam, if he was still somewhere, he was trapped among those shadows calling out of the darkness.